Hey! Welcome to this week's devlog. We missed a weekend, there's a reason for that. And I'll get right into it. So here's the deal. Last month, I was working on creating that demo that, all the devlogs are about so far, in order to submit it to the Newgrounds Pixel Day, which is an event that occurred a couple days ago, this past Wednesday. And basically the entire theme was just, create something 8-bit, 16-bit, something retro. For the guys who remember when, all the games are pixely and stuff, and that's totally not how it is now, right guys? Yeah, so that whole thing, I wanted to try to submit something Rose and Thorn related to this event in order to kind of, build some traction. But the demo I had at the end of the month, I wasn't happy about gameplay-wise. it just didn't feel quite right. And I was convinced by some guys on the stream to kind of do what I was already going to do a bit sooner. And what I was going to do was kind of redesign parts of the certain mechanics of the game, basically the main mechanic of the game, which is combat, attacking and stuff. So I did that. I decided that they were right, and I was just going to, from last week, I just decided I'm going to start working on this. And so last week I didn't really have much to show in a devlog, so I just decided, skip this week. It's not that big a deal. So now I do have some stuff to show, and I also have the animation which you saw. That animation was the replacement for the game, so I posted that to Newgrounds. That did okay, a bit about as I expected. Some middling scores in general, not that big a deal. But it did its job of probably getting a bit more than average attention on Newgrounds about this project. So that's good, that's fine. But moving on to the present. So what I have in front of me here is my next project. Is a new project for Rose and Thorn. And it is just a primitive project. So this is my testing scene, you can see here. And you might consider this like, oh no, everything is gone. It's not pretty anymore, dude. This sucks. But trust me, this is good. This is good. And I just want to show you why. So this is like my little test dummy. This is my test character. That arrow pointing forwards is just to show me which way the character is looking, or which way the character is facing. And as you can see, I have a 3-hit combo again. And it isn't so much of a dash as much of like a step forward with the attacks. Yeah, it's a you can kind of see it's a little bit buggy still. I gotta iron out the kinks. It's not the end of the world though. But in addition to those, we also have a kind of upwards attack and a downwards attack. And we have more. So remember that dash move? That is now relegated into its own kind of move. So now I can do this, and I can also go upwards. So the idea here is that you can dash right and left. You can also change the direction in the middle, not in the middle of attacks, but like in the middle of a combo. So that was just one combo there. And what can you do with all that? Well, you can do something like this. I fucked that up. Let me try again. Yeah, that was fucking sick, wasn't it? Like I did a whole combo basically. It doesn't really work. It doesn't really work totally correctly, but you can kind of see how this can lead to a more satisfying gameplay than before, where it was just basically you just slash and dash across. Well, slashing and dashing across the map is the point of the game, but it wasn't very satisfying. And I feel like this sort of deal, where you can knock guys into the air and juggle them and stuff with your attacks, and like you have directional attacks that is more intuitive doing that. Will go a long way. So, in this log, I am going to basically just go over exactly what I did in order to do this new implementation. So Rose has a camera 2D, a state machine, some states node, a states node that holds the states, and a raycast 2D, which just tells me which way it's facing. Let's go into the Rose's main script, which is basically identical to the last main script. I basically haven't changed anything on this. I mean, I changed some syntax, changed some naming conventions, but this is all basically the same sort of logic. You can go back to my first devlog to see, like, you know, how I go. Did I even go through that on the first devlog? It might have been the dev recap. Either way, I've gone through this before. It's not very revolutionary. And I still have this stuff down here to detect, this is the ray casting from one of the devlogs that I did. I'm going to re-implement it onto this one eventually, but for now, I'll just leave it commented out because I just don't want to deal with it right now. I just want to make sure the combat feels nice, and then I'll worry about exceptions and stuff. So, I have my state machine. So this is actually a little bit different here. I'm calling these state things. I'm calling two state functions here: handle, input, and execute. Now, in every state, let's go to the state script. I have a state script, which is just a kind of interface. It's basically an interface, the parent script of all the state scripts. Here, I kind of instantiate my functions. That's no good. I didn't realize I put that there, but it's no matter. So basically, every state has an enter function, a handle input function, an execute function, and an exit function. And we'll see exactly how all these work and play together to make a very seamless transitions between states and very seamless handling inside each state. So first, let's go one script higher in the hierarchy, or lower, I guess, depending on your whatever context you want to use. One script over, and that would be the free motion state. I should rename it. That's not a very descriptive name, actually, for what a very accurately descriptive name. This basically allows me to change directions. That's all it does. So I have a function get input direction and function update look direction. And this inherits from states, so it also has an enter, exit, all the rest, but it just doesn't do anything. I'm just adding a get input direction and update look direction in order to be able to easily grab and modify my main character's look direction. And all the states I have so far inherit from that. So first, let's go to the most simplest. Let's go to the move on ground. So first, when I enter the function, when I call the func enter on the move on ground state, the only thing it does is it changes the state to move on ground. So the enter function, this is like the theme of the enter function. The enter function basically just modifies the state variable in order to go to the correct function, and it also does other things in order to initialize a certain states that need to be initialized. The first, like, move in air, move on ground don't really need to be initialized. They just need to set the state to the correct state. But the attack state has certain initialization stuff that we'll talk about. So first, let's look at the handle input. So basically, this is where all my input is handled. I don't want to handle any input down here in my execute delta function. I'm just handling it up here, and the execute function basically it calculates stuff based on the input being handled. So generally speaking, handle input for most of my states is just going to be like, okay, so I pressed something, let's change states now. So for example, if I press one of the attack buttons, and attack is just if it's an input map key. Attack is basically all of my attack things, and each of the attack buttons has their own thing as well, but all of them are also under attack. I kind of wish there were like input groups, so like that I could just group slash, bash, and pierce all into one group. I'm sure there might be a way to do that actually, but I just decided to put it all under one thing called attack. So if action is just press attack. That is, like, if I just press down on any attack button, like X, Y, B, and the attack isn't on cooldown, then I exit to the attack state. Meanwhile, if I press the jump button, I'll move into the air. I'll first I'll put my v speed equal to minus host.j speed. So basically, it just makes the character have an upward speed, and then I exit to the move in air function. Move in air state rather, and that's all that does. So now my execute delta. First off, I create a variable input direction, which just gets the input direction. And then I update my look direction depending on that input direction. So, if you recall from my free motion state, where is it? There it is. This just takes whatever input I have for this, for the left and right. I guess you can call them buttons. So based on those inputs, it'll change my look direction, and it'll move in that direction. Else, if it's on the basically whenever I'm not on the floor, I just exit to the move in air state. So like this, so I would only if I only had it over here, I would only enter the move in air state if I was jumping. So if I say the character just runs off a cliff or something like that, I won't go into the move in air state if this isn't here. So that's what that's for. And all these call the same function in this state. They all call the exit state, which takes in a state as a parameter. Well, the state is just a string, so it takes in a string as a parameter, and it for this state, it sets the h speed equal to 0. So when I'm leaving the move state, I just set my h speed to 0, and I exit the state from a higher level script, or rather a lower level script, which is the state script. Basically, all this does, this lower level exit state function, it just calls the enter function for the state that is delineated here. So why would I even have this? Well, not all states are this simple. So in the move on ground state, all I want to do here is just set the HP to 0. But in my attack state, for instance, which is the most complicated state, so of course it's going to be a little bit different than all the others. I'm gonna have to do a lot of stuff here. But for here, I just set the HP to 0, and then I call the higher level state exit function rather, and I'm done here. So let's just assume that I'm now in the air. So let's say I either jumped or I fall off a cliff. Now I'm in the air. What does that look like? Well, it looks basically exactly the same, except the input handling is different. This is basically exactly the same, except this is the opposite. If the host is on the floor, then I move to the move on ground state, and there is no exit parameters. This just calls the lower level exit function. But I have this here just in case I ever want to do something with it. So just in case, just to remind me that the exit function is there for me to mess with. I probably don't need that reminder, but I'm gonna keep it anyway. What's more important though is the handle input, where that's different. So basically, this is exactly the same thing as before, but this one is action just released jump. So what does this do? This basically allows me to control how high my character jumps. So if I press play just to show you, and I jump, if I just tap it, I don't only jump this high. But if I hold it, I jump much higher. Basically, I can go anywhere between that, depending on when I release it. And that's what that does. Basically, when I release the jump key, so long as the V speed is less than a third of this jump speed that I have here, essentially, I can then set the V speed to that 1/3 of the jump speed, which basically that translates to, if I release it at the moment that the character basically moves off the ground, that is just tapping it, it basically immediately sets the V speed to 1/3 of its jump speed. This basically immediately slows down the jump, whereas here the jump doesn't slow down. But if I just release it down here, it does slow down. And if it's over that hump, that J speed hump, then there's no reason to slow it down. So that's why, depending on what you set this to, it could look like you're kind of double jumping for certain values. So yeah, that's cool. So let's go ahead and attack now. So let's say we just attacked just now actually simpler, just from the ground state. So if we attack from the ground state, let's see what happens. We exit the state to the attack state. So now, of course, this just calls the enter attack state. So let's see what that looks like. Now, off the bat, we see a shit ton of variables. So we're not going to worry about them right now. Let's just look at the enter function. So on enter, the host.state is equal to attack. Combo start is set to true. This variable combo start. So we're at the start of the combo. And then I call the handle input function. So why do I call the handle input function in this enter? There's a very simple reason for it. When I enter the state, I just pressed an attack button, and I'm still on that frame. I'm still on that frame of calculation. So it still is. It's still registering that I just hit a button, an attack button. So with the handle input function, I can then look at that attack button farther down. So let's get into it. So let's look at the handle input first. Basically, this huge mess of stuff, the job of this is either, again, to exit the state, which is all the way down here, or to set up the calculation done in the execute delta state. Function. So first off, this thing over here is just, it's to handle when I'm doing an aerial attack. So I can't, if I just show you, I cannot, wait, I totally am. Okay, something's busted. But I wasn't supposed to be able to do this, essentially. That's what this is supposed to do, but obviously it isn't working quite right. There's some bugs that I gotta iron out here. It's no matter, I'll get to it. And then I have this whole mess. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's just a bunch of if statements. And all they end up meaning is just that I have some attacks. I have a lot of attacks, in fact. So we look over here. This is probably a better way to look at it over here. So here's my attack objects, and here's my attacks. So I can either be my joystick, this thing right here, can either be down or one of the horizontal directions or up. So I have a down, horizontal, and up kind of folders here. These are the kinds of attacks I can do. And the down, and when I'm pressing down, when I'm holding down, I could either be in the air or on the ground. And same thing for horizontal, and same thing for up. And if I'm doing one of those things, then I'm doing one of these attacks depending on the step of the attack. So I can either be on the first attack of my combo, the second attack of my combo, or the third attack of my combo, and that's how all logic works. And also I could be doing a special attack, and that's basically what all this is setting up for. And after all that initialization is said and done, I then look at what attack I pressed. And depending on what attack I pressed, assuming I pressed an attack, it'll basically start the combo. That's what the start variable is for. And the combo step plus equals 1, you understand. And then I move on, essentially. This other stuff is just for leaving the state. If I want to cancel the combo or time out the combo, this is like these let me either move on ground or move in air, basically depending on whether or not I'm on the floor and what inputs I've pressed, etc. So now we look at our execute delta function, and you see it's really small, but that's just because a lot of it's just been put into this attack function. We'll look at that in a second. But basically, this is more like I want the attack function, and then I want to do other things over here. So that's what I do. And then I have this exit state function, which again, this is why I have a default exit state, which I call here again, and I also have exit states kind of explicitly called in these states, exit state functions called in these states, because I want to basically reset the state, reset all the state variables back to their original things. This is actually probably why it's not working, because I didn't actually set some of these values are old. So I'm going to have to just redo this, probably. I'll work on it later. So now let's look at our function attack, because we're almost done here. So our attack function, if the current attack is not equal to nil, that is, if I'm attacking, essentially, I match the combo step. So if I'm on the first combo step, that is the first attack, I'll do this. Second attack, I'll do this. Third attack, I'll do this. And what that basically amounts to is I'm building the attack string. So here, if the first attack is X, if the current attack is X, it'll set the first attack equal to X, and combo attack is then equal to X. Same thing over here, first attack plus current attack, that's this whatever was previous plus the current equals the second attack, and I set the combo attack equal to that. And I always wonder, I reference to this combo attack because that's where I do, that's basically where it's where I am able to assign this over here, because I can't just if I could just create like 3 more if statements for each individual attack, but of course that creates more stuff. I don't need to do that. With this combo attack reference, I'll be able to like build on top of each attack in the combo and be able to eventually do a 3-hit combo over here. So this by over here, if the first attack and second attack were X's, then this combo attack will then be XXX, because again, it's second attack, which is XX plus current attack, which is another X, equals third attack, and then the combo attack is equal to that. And then if the combo step is 4, that means if I did my last combo, my the third attack, if I completed that, then I'll just leave the state because I finished the combo. And then I have this if statement. So basically, if from the combo step, if the combo step is 1, 2, or 3, that's combo step in this array 1, 2, or 3, and the current attack is not equal to nil, that is, the current attack is is an attack, then I do this stuff. So first off, if the place is in the air, then I set my air counter minus equals to 1. And again, that is for, it's not really working correctly but up here, that's what this is for. I'm only supposed to do 1 attack in the air. If I don't hit something, that's the thing though. If I hit something, I can do more attacks, but if I don't hit anything, then I want to stop doing attacks in the air. This basically prevents, it prevents a functional double jump. So on the ground, I can of course go up, but I don't always want to do this. For example, if I'm in the air, I don't want to do that, so I don't. And that's basically all that does. If the direction is up, then I stop doing the special attack. So the special attack is now equal to a null string, not a null string, but an empty string. And this allows me to do something really smart here. So let me make this a bit bigger. So I set this path. So the path is, of course, a path to my attack objects, and then I start concatenating. So first, my special variable, whether or not the attack is special or not, it'll either go into this folder, the attacks folder, or the special attacks folder. And then, depending on the direction that I've hitting, so up, down, or horizontal, it'll then go into that folder, the up, down, horizontal folder, depending on whether or not it's special attack, so on and so forth. And then it'll look at the place and go into that folder, so either the air or the ground. And once it finds that folder, it'll concatenate the combo attack, which is at this point is either X, XX, or XXX. Attack.scene, which all the things that have the same exact name, no matter where you go. They all have the same name, but they're all different. I'm going to be able to tell the difference, well, by looking at the file system, or eventually I'm going to give each of these guys their own scripts, so like that they each have their own logic that I know exactly what logic they're working off of. Currently, I don't have the best system for that. All the logic for these attacks is stored in the attack objects folder. Not a very good thing to do. I should be putting the scripts in each of the things depending on what logic the attack is using. So yeah. And after I do that, I no longer need these, and so I set them back to their original things. Again, I don't think this is actually correct. I'll go back and fix this. And then I instantiate that effect. So I instead of preload, I'm using load, and this allows me to do this dynamic string pathing. So I create a variable effect equal to basically effect is just a reference to this instance of this scene over here, and then I put that effect's host equal to this host, which is just the player object, the kinematic body. Then I put the effect's attack state equals to self, and then I add the host, that is the kinematic body. I add a child I add the effect as a child, so I add this scene, one of these scenes, I add this as a child of the kinematic body here, so it always follows the kinematic body around, and I don't have to, you know, it doesn't do anything else. And that basically does it for the attack state. I accidentally did that. All this down here are just timeouts. These are timer timeouts. So basically, I have a bunch of timers, basically just to say that at the end of this phase of the attack, I move into the next phase of the attack. This displace X and displace Y is specifically for the dashing, so I don't over move. So when I dash, I move exactly 80 pixels. That's about 3.5 square lengths or maybe 4, maybe exactly, no, 3.5 square lengths, because each square is 32. 3.5 square lengths, and then the up is a similar thing, though it's a little longer, I think. In any case, that basically covers it. So, yeah. That's all the displace X and displace Y does. I've gone over it, like, it's very similar to what I've done in the past with displacement and attacking. And yeah, so this after an attack is finished, that's this on attack timer timeout, I destroy the attack and I do some stuff. And this right here, I can go over this one. This allows me to float in the air when I've hit an enemy into the air. So, for instance, if I do this, you see I hang in the air for a little bit. Yeah, that's all that does. And the logic is right there. Basically, I set a timer. I set floating to true, which basically in the Rose main script, if that variable floating is true, then basically V speed is 0. So I'm just floating in the air, and as soon as it's running on a timer, and as soon as that timer runs out, I start falling again. So yeah, it's pretty good, and that basically covers this devlog. I hope that it wasn't too long, and I hope that you can see that, like, you know, this kind of system, it's kind of turning, like, it's more conducive to a fighting sort of deal. Like, you feel like you're actually, like, fighting something here. There are of course measures I need to take in order to make it more smooth, but it's basically here for me to change around and stuff. And of course, I have this thing where, like, I stop with my horizontal attacks, horizontal dashes. I stop as soon as I hit the guy. That's not intended, but it's a symptom of the simplicity of the current project. I need to expand the scope of that dash, and of course, I need to expand the scope of all the attacks. Well, what I foresee doing in the next week is making logic for each individual attack, basically. Like, each of these attacks can off the same logic. I'm okay with that one for now, but I want at least each of these guys to be running off different scripts. Even if they're, like, the same sort of behavior, I still want them running off different scripts. So I know that, you know, they're working off of this logic and not this logic. And then I can try to condense it later on. For now, that's the end of this one. If you liked this devlog and you wanna see more, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel and stuff. Like the video, share it around with your friends. If you have any friends interested in game dev, I'm planning to go through my game as much as I can, really. As much as I can justify going through my game and, like, kind of going step by step on how I'm making this thing. So if any of your friends or if you like to kind of see this process, do share it around. This has been Tayo. If you want to support the game more directly, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Tayo, link in the description. And I also, probably most importantly, I have a Discord that I love talking to people in, because I get a lot of feedback on, you know, my mechanics, on my designs, and this, that, and the third, which allows me to kind of, you know, work through this stuff more efficiently, because more people are looking at it, more people are providing input. So if you want to provide input, I highly recommend that you check out the Discord. That's it from me, though. I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah.